of Chapters, Books, and Gifts. She's going to tell us about her business experience, what she's learned along the way, and maybe a little bit about what's going on in Seward. Carla, thanks for being here and sponsoring today.
Thank you. It's good to be here. As we went around the room, I was listening to hear if there were any entrepreneurs, anybody who was starting a business, but it doesn't sound like there are, so I won't go into a lot of detail today about my experience with that, and I'll focus more on what I've learned, as you said, and what's going on in Seward. I am Carla Ketner, as he said. I am a teacher by training, but somehow I ended up in the business world instead. And basically what happened was when my kids were little, I stayed at home with them, took a few years off from teaching. And then when my youngest went back to kindergarten, I decided I needed to either go back to teaching or find something else to do. And one day I was shopping in a bookstore in Nebraska City with a friend of mine, and she just kind of jokingly said, "You should start a bookstore like this in Seward." And I said, "No, I don't think I want to work that hard." Teaching seemed easier than that, but, and teaching is a very hard job. But then the idea kind of stuck with me, and I thought, okay, so if I did decide to open a bookstore in Seward, where would I do it? And right about that same time, the Seward, we had an old Carnegie Library building, and we were building a new library. And I heard that the Carnegie Library was up for sale. And I thought, okay, if you're going to open a bookstore, an old library building would be pretty much an ideal place to do it. It was a beautiful building. It had bookshelves built in and everything already. And it was downtown. So I put in a bid on the building when they had a sealed bid auction, and I didn't get it. And then I thought, okay, that means I'm not supposed to have the bookstore. But then, a week or so later, I saw that the store that had been in the building on probably the busiest corner in Seward, on the corner of Seward Street and Highway 15, the store that had been in there for over 30 years, the owners were retiring, so that building was going to be empty. So then I thought, well, maybe I should talk to the landlord and see if he's already got plans for that building. And I talked to him, and he said he didn't have any plans for the building. He said, write up a business plan and then come back and talk to me. And as a teacher, I had no idea what a business plan was. So I did a little bit of research. I talked to the Small Business Administration. So you guys, I think I even talked to some SCORE people maybe. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while. But they were very helpful, and they got me started with the business plan. And I put quite a bit of time and effort into that. And then I went back and talked to the landlord, and he said, well, is there a market in Seward for a bookstore? And I said, I know the answer to that because I did a business plan and a feasibility study and all that stuff that goes with the business plan. And it did seem like there would be a reasonable market. It seemed like that a bookstore could make it in Seward. And so he agreed to rent me the building. And from there, things just kind of snowballed. And I spent about a year getting the building ready to go and figuring out where you order books from and what kind of point of sale system I needed. And I visited that bookstore in Nebraska City that started this whole thing and talked to them about where they got all their books from and how they ran the business and things like that. I went to Aurora and talked to Susan. Anybody been to Susan's bookstore there? She's got a really cute little store on the square in downtown Aurora. So I talked to her, and I talked to the people at the Bookworm in Omaha and lots of other bookstores in the area and got a lot of information from them. And in 2004, we opened Chapters, Books, and Gifts on the square in Seward. So we've been there 13 years now. We sell new books for adults and children of all ages. We have all genres. We also, over the years, have kind of changed and added to our sideline selection. So we also have toys for kids, and we have jigsaw puzzles, games, lotions, other book-related gifts for adults. When I choose the toys for the store, basically the things I choose are unique, the kinds of things that you can't get at Walmart or one of the other big box stores. I try to choose things that don't require batteries and that are award-winning toys and don't have just one right way to play it. So they're things that'll keep kids interested for a long time. So we have toys for kids, we have books for all ages, we do special orders. We work with a lot of schools, churches, libraries, and we do give discounts. So if you're with a church or a school or a library that needs to order some books, we are happy to work with you. We do a lot of book fairs with schools, and in fact today, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going back to the store. We're doing an in-store book fair, and a portion of our proceeds from yesterday and today's sales are going to St. John's School, which is one of the private schools in Seward. So things like that are a lot of fun, and it's one of our ways we give back to the community. Let's see, what else? We have an online store. In today's market, you kind of have to at least offer that to compete with some of the big online opportunities people have for buying books. And our online store offers free shipping all the time. So if you're interested, I have a little flyer in the back there, a bookmark that has the address on it. You can start ordering your books from us if you're interested. I was going to mention a little bit about the downtown square in Seward. How many of you have been to Seward on the 4th of July? Most of the time it's a little bit quieter than that. But we do have a really nice downtown square, and if you're ever looking for just a day outing or something to do, just to get out of Lincoln for a little while, I'd encourage you to come downtown in Seward. We've got a cute little jewelry store, a nice women's boutique, an art gallery, Chapters, of course, and some other nice little gift stores, and a great coffee shop. What is that?
And a brewery.
And a brewery, yeah, yes.
I like yours.
Yep, Bottle Rocket Brewery's downtown, and so is the Red Path Gallery and Wine Bar. So we've got everything you need downtown: coffee, beer and wine, and books. And this past summer, our downtown square was on the Nebraska Passport. So if any of you are familiar with this program, does anybody know what the Passport is?
No.
Okay. That was great. It brought a lot of people to town. We had over close to 3,000, I think, that visited downtown Seward because of this. So if you ever get the opportunity to get your business involved with this, I encourage you to look into it. It's a great program, and we really enjoyed it. It was fun. We had people from all over the state coming in. It was just a great experience this summer, and the whole downtown square was a stop on the tour that people could get their stamps at Chapters. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Do you guys do book clubs?
We have tried to do book clubs. Mostly what I've ended up doing is if somebody says, well, do you have book clubs, I connect them to another club in town, because our library does several book clubs, and there's an independent group that we got started several years ago, and they're still going, so I usually connect people to them. We've tried to do them at the store, and it hasn't taken off for some reason, but we do have a writers group that meets at the store. And so if you're a writer and interested in that, we meet the first and third Tuesday at 3 o'clock, from 3 to 4:30 or so.
So do you have like a separate room that they meet in?
We meet at the Civic Center down the street because we don't really have a good quiet place to meet at the store. But when we do events at the store, we do have an area in the back that we clear out, and we can set up chairs about this much space for authors and things like that. So yeah, we do have a little bit of space, but not a lot.
Because I was wondering if you sold games, like could you have a game where you're doing the game demos?
Yeah, we've had game nights. We've had lots of author events at the store. Should have mentioned that. We have local authors and nationally known authors come in. We've had a tea party one time. We have, every summer, we do a kids camp. We call it Fun Day Mondays now, and every Monday in June and July, we have some kind of activity for kids. We have an author, we do crafts, we do things like that. Sometimes they're for adults instead of for kids. So that's why we call it Fun Day Monday instead of just kids camp. But we've had a lot of fun with that. So we do a lot of different kinds of events like that. It is hard though, because we don't have a huge space, which brings us to one of the things that I've learned over the years, which is that it's great to work with other organizations in your community. We've had events at the library where they have a great, if you've been in the Seward Library, it's a beautiful building, and they, a couple of years ago, finished the basement and built a nice meeting room down there. So we have authors come into the basement at the library and sell books there, and then we give a portion of the proceeds back to the library, the Friends of the Library. But it's a kind of a win-win situation. We get a nice space to use, and the library gets some money, and they get people in the library. We get authors who wouldn't normally come to town, so it's worked out well. We also partner a lot with Concordia and bring authors to Concordia's campus, and then we do the book sales for that. I think that's one of the most important things that I have learned, is that you have to work together in a community like Seward especially. Any other questions?
I've got a lot of friends that have small businesses in smaller communities, and one thing I've heard them mention time and again, and when you open a business in a small town, all of a sudden you've got people knocking on your door asking for money all the time, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, every church in town. How do you handle that? Do you have some guidelines you kind of follow as to what you will and won't do and that sort of thing?
That's a very good question. It was on my list of things I've learned too. If you gave to everybody who came in, we wouldn't have anything left. We'd have empty shelves and empty checkbooks. Because yes, when you're a small business in a small community, you have to support your community. And the way I've kind of decided to decide who gets a donation, a lot of it is if the schools come and ask me for sponsorship for sporting events, I tell them no. But if they ask me to sponsor a literacy-related event, I tell them yes. I try to hit things that are relevant to the business, or that my customers will be attending. You know, yeah, my customers go to the football games, but they're not really thinking about books when they're there. But if they go to, I don't know, some other kind of event in the school that's more related to literacy, then they're more likely to be thinking about me and eventually follow up by coming back to the store. So part of it is what benefits me. Part of it is just a way to limit what I do, because I can't do everything. So I just tell the schools, and I tell other people who ask for money, if it's related to literacy in some way, I will say yes. The other thing, there's people who come in all the time with benefits for cancer victims or, things like that, local people. I almost always say yes to those if they're a person who lives in Seward or Seward County. If it's a name I recognize, I almost always say yes to them. If they're coming from Lincoln and I have no clue who they are, it's easier to say no to those. But if they have some connection to the community, I almost always say yes to them. And a lot of times, when they have a silent auction or something, we can give them a book or a toy, not necessarily junk, but something that I've had on the shelf for a while that I want to get rid of anyway. It's still a nice item, and it still represents the store well, but it's something that, maybe it's the last one I have or something. So I can benefit by giving that to them too, and they also benefit. And that sounds bad. So. I don't mean it to be bad, but yeah, we do give to a lot of groups and a lot of organizations, and I think if I'm going to expect people in the community to support my business, then I should support the community too. And that's kind of how I look at that.
Since you've been in the community and doing this for over a decade now, it's kind of, I'm going to that question of how's print working for you over this last decade? What are the trends? Are kids' books doing better? Adult books doing better? Do you see everything just kind of down, up? What's your thoughts?
That's a very good question too. We started in 2004, which was before ebooks were really big. And it was also before Seward got a super Walmart in 2005 or 2006. And before Amazon got big and everything. So all of those things have affected my business in big ways. We saw 2007, 2008, 2009, like everything, business went down then. And it was a lot of factors at the time. It was the ebooks were on the rise then, and a lot of people jumped on the Kindle bandwagon, and they were buying e-readers and not buying paper books anymore. And then, the Walmart took some of our business, and Amazon was growing a little bit at the time too. But since then, honestly, we've seen a resurgence. People who have tried reading books online and on their Kindles, and they don't like it, so they're coming back to paper books. And there's been a resurgence of support for local businesses. There's been the major shop local initiatives in a lot of places over the last few years, and people are listening and taking that seriously. We've done put a lot of effort into getting out into the schools and doing book fairs with local schools and bringing people into the store for events and kind of getting our name out there and getting people to realize that we contribute to the community and hopefully they want to keep us in town, so they're more likely to support us now. But I think you mentioned the paper books versus ebooks. I think ebooks are on the downturn and paper books are rising again. Especially children's picture books have really started selling a lot more in the last couple of years. There's a lot of really good picture books out there now, and for a few years there weren't. So I think that's a upward trend. Young adult books are really popular too, with the Hunger Games and things like that, Harry Potter even. People started to realize that there's a lot of good books for young adults, and adults are reading them as much as kids are sometimes.
You sell audiobooks, and how is that trend going?
Yeah, the audiobook
See a lot
trend.
of people listening.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one aspect of the market that I do miss out on because of the internet. Nobody listens to CDs anymore. They
I do.
download. Do you? Good for you.
Well, yeah, because if you get a new phone and you don't transfer all that stuff over, then it's like, I still have my CDs, I don't have to do anything with them. So, but then again, I really
Yeah.
don't drive very much anymore since I don't do my own distribution anymore. So.
And I can order all those for people. We don't stock them in the store very much, but we're happy to order. We do a lot of special orders for things like that. And large print books too. You know, it's so hard to know what people are gonna want that we don't stock them in the store, but we can special order them and have them within a few days. So that's what we do with things like that. But audiobooks are big. Yeah.
Is every book available on CD?
No.
Okay.
The publishers decide which ones they think will be big enough sellers to do that with.
Okay.
What's been your favorite thing about owning a business for so long?
That's a good question too. I have a lot of favorites, but I think the best part, honestly, has been all the people I've gotten to meet that I wouldn't have met otherwise. I love the flexibility, and you know, I can go out for lunch with a friend if I have somebody to cover the store for me. You know, I can leave a couple hours early as long as there's somebody else to cover the store. And when I was teaching, I had no flexibility in my schedule at all. So I like the flexibility. I like making decisions as long as those are the right decisions and they don't fall flat and things like that. But I really think the best part is the people I've gotten to meet. And that includes famous authors when I've gone to conferences or had them come to the store, which is really cool. But also the people who own other businesses in Seward and the people at the newspaper in Seward. Our customers, we have some great regular customers who are people that are wonderful people, but I wouldn't necessarily have run into them just in my usual circle in town. I've met wonderful people from here in Lincoln too who come out and shop at the store. Just basically the people is the best part. My employees.
Bouncing off that, how many employees do you have, and how has that changed throughout the years? And also, like, hours of operation. What are your hours of operation? When are you busy? When are you slow? Things like that.
We're open from 9 to 5:30 Monday through Thursday, and 9 to 5 on Friday, and 10 to 3 on Saturday. And working out those hours has kind of been a work in progress over the years. We started out 9 to 6 every day. And then we realized that we were just sitting around for that last hour of the day or last half hour and not bringing in any money, and we were spending money. So we adjusted that to 5:30. And then we did a study to see whether we had any customers from 9 to 10 or whether we should open at 10 instead of 9. And we discovered we had quite a few people who come in at 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning. So it was definitely worth being open for that hour in the morning. Saturdays, we started out, I think, 9 to 2, and then we went 9 to noon, and then we went 9 to 1, and then we went 10 to 2. Now we're at 10 to 3. that's right, 10 to 3. And that seems to hit most of the morning crowd, and then the stragglers who are downtown during the afternoon. So it's been a work in progress trying to develop what hours work with us, and then, you know, with the other stores on the block, we have to consider their hours too, because people don't want to come down just for one store if everything else is closed. So we've done that. I have 5 part-time employees right now. I have one lady she's turning 75 in November, and she worked full-time for me for about the first 10 years that I had the store, and now she's gradually cutting her hours. I keep trying to tell her she should be home relaxing instead of working so hard. But I also have told her that I'm going to close the store when she retires, because I don't know if I can do it without her. She's been wonderful. But she's cutting her hours, so I have another retired teacher who is picking up some of the hours that she's dropped. And then I have 3 high school and college kids who do the Saturdays that none of us really want to work. And so they do the Saturdays, and they do evenings during the holidays and things like that too. One of the things I've learned over the years is to trust my instincts when I hire somebody. I've made some decisions that I regret for hiring, and most of those were because other people were telling me, you gotta hire this person, you gotta hire this person, and I interviewed them, and I thought, I really don't think I should hire this person, but she comes so highly referred, I should, and I do, and then it doesn't last very long, or something will happen. But I've been very fortunate. Most of my employees have, like Cheryl's been with me for 13 years now. I get a lot of the kids, and my favorite employees are Seward kids who I get when they're high school seniors, and they go to Concordia, so they stay in town for 4 more years, or 5 years even. So I get to keep the same girls for 4 or 5 years, and by the time they leave, they're wonderful. I don't have to do anything, you know, just they know exactly how to do their jobs, and they could come in and do my job too. So they're the ones that I love, and I've had a couple of those, and it's hard to send them on their way. But yeah, we get some good kids in town.
Is there any seasonality in book sales?
There is, not as much as there used to be, honestly. You know, we used to be hugely busy during October, November, and December. Those were our big months. And then January and February was slow. Now we're still busy October, November, and December, but January is not quite as slow as it used to be. And sometimes, I should never say this, but I wish it was a little bit slower so we could catch up after the holidays and do inventory and things like that. But I will never say that I wish it was slow business in January. But yeah, summer is a pretty big season for us. We get a lot. Our best customers are moms with little kids and grandmas and grandpas who come in with their grandchildren. And so summer is a big time for them, and then the holidays are a big time for gifts for people too. So the slowest season would be January, February, March in there.
What's the best ticket item for this season?
Oh, are you talking books? Or, well, the big thing, I didn't even bring one because I thought we might sell it at the store today, but I have a few left. You heard of John Green? He is a huge young adult author. The kids love him, college kids love him. And he has a new book out called Turtles All the Way Down, I think is what it's called. It's a very strange title. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know what it's about. But it's the biggest seller we've had in a while. Our other big seller, probably for the holiday season, will be the illustrated Harry Potter. They're doing an illustrated series of books, the Harry Potter books with gorgeous pictures. And they've done one a year for the last 3 years. The third one just came out this year. So that will be a good seller for Christmas too. For adults, that's a good question right now. To think on that one. Yeah. Coloring books have kind of passed their prime. Before that, it was 50 Shades of Grey. I like the coloring book a little bit better. I'm not sure exactly what it'll be this year. We'll have to wait and see.
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book of all time, it would be The Handmaid's Tale, honestly. Anybody read that one?
Yeah, I read it in college.
Yeah. It's by Margaret Atwood, my all-time favorite book. And then my favorite children's book is The Giver, which is very similar. in a lot of ways to that. I have a new favorite picture book, which I didn't bring too. It's called If You Plant a Seed, and it's gorgeous pictures. So if you have little kids you're buying for, I'd recommend that one. And it's about if you plant a seed of kindness, you'll grow kindness. If you plant a seed of discord, then that's what will grow too. It's animals, and there's a great food fight in there. It's a fun book. I did bring a few books today. Just wanted to let you all know, and it was so hard to choose what to bring that I decided to bring things that we had signed copies of in the store. And these are signed either because the authors did a big thing where they went to the publishers and signed a lot of books, and then the bookstores could buy the signed books, or because the authors were in our store and in town. And we have a few famous celebrities. I'm sure you've all heard of Ted Kooser. We're kind of Ted's home bookstore. He lives in Garland. He's a former United States Poet Laureate, a Pulitzer Prize winner, all-around great guy. So we have all of his books, and they're all signed. And if you ever want personalized Ted Kooser books, just call me, and then I can call him and say, hey, come in and sign this book for so-and-so. He comes and does a lot of events for us. So he is our biggest seller in the store by far over the last 13 years. I've checked occasionally how many books we've sold of his, and it's in the thousands by now. But he's a great guy, too. And then another one, Alex Kava, you may have heard of her. She is a mystery thriller writer, and I think I brought one of her books, and it's back there. She's from Silver Creek, Nebraska, originally, which maybe if you haven't heard of that, it's near Columbus. And she lives part-time in Omaha and part-time in Florida now. So when she has a new book out, she'll come in and do a signing for us sometimes. Yeah, she's a great person, too. Such a nice person that you think, how does she ever write these terrible stories? Where does such a nice person come up with this stuff? And then we just had David Shannon, who wrote No David. He has a brand new book, which I have on the back table there. My boys loved this book when they were little, and they're in college now. But David Shannon was in Seward a couple weeks ago, so we have some signed copies of his books. And Jane Yolen, you may have heard of. She was in town last year, so we got some of her books. And then Miranda Paul, she's one of those fun stories that I like to tell. She was here in July, but I met her at a booksellers meeting last April in Portland, Oregon, and I went through the list of all the authors who were going to be there, and I thought, okay, these are the ones that I really want to talk to. And Miranda was at the top of my list, and I thought, well, I don't even know what she looks like. How am I ever going to find her? The very first morning I sat down at breakfast, I turned to the person next to me, and guess who it was? So then my husband started calling me a stalker because every time I turned around, Miranda was right behind me, or right in front of me. It was like I was following her. But she has a book on the Nebraska Golden Sower list this year, which is why I wanted to meet her. If you're not familiar with the Golden Sower list, that's the Children's Choice Awards. And there's a list of about 10 books, and the kids read them all throughout the school year, and then they vote on their favorites. And one of her books is on that list. So I thought it'd be great to get her to come to Nebraska. And she and her family stayed with me for a couple nights and then did an event at the store. And they were on their way from where they live in Wisconsin to an event in California. So they just stopped in Seward on the way, and we had a great time with them. It was July 3rd. Unfortunately, they couldn't be there for the 4th. But July 3rd, we did some fireworks with their kids and had a great time. So things like that make it fun. But I do have some signed books up here, a few more back there. And if you're interested, you can purchase them today. Let's see. Did I answer the question? I forgot what the question was. Who asked it?
You did.
Okay. And I'll just close real quick with my list of life lessons that I've learned, just a few of them from having the store for over 13 years. One of the biggest things I've learned is to be open to unexpected opportunities. like opening the store in the first place, but even things like coming here. You know, when Steve asked if I was interested in doing this, I didn't know what the Entrepreneurship Center was, but I said yes anyway, and then did the research, and I'm glad I'm here, so thank you for that. But those unexpected opportunities sometimes turn out to be the best things you can do. But on the other hand, you have to know when to say no too. And, you know, I found out that there were times I said yes, and then I had to turn around and say no. Not very many of those, but it does occasionally happen. And for example, I opened a store in Columbus. After I had the store in Seward open for a few years, a woman who owned an antique store in Columbus approached me and asked if I wanted to open a bookstore in her antique store. So I said yes. Why wouldn't I, right? It turned out it was a lot of work to go from Seward to Columbus and run 2 stores. And we had kind of different philosophies about technology, and she didn't use a computer, and she didn't take credit cards, and it was really hard for me to keep up with inventory up there. So then we kind of together decided that it would be better if she just bought out my part of the business and she took it over. So that was one of those times when it was time to say no. And I've learned from a few other things like that over the years that it is okay to say no, but don't say no without thinking about it first. Another big thing that I've learned is that you have to be flexible and responsive and adaptable if you're going to own a business. My inventory has changed over the years based on what my customers want. I'm a little bit better now at predicting what they'll want, but still not 100% at that. So I've had to learn that just because I want to sell something, that doesn't mean it will sell. Or just because I want to do something a certain way, it won't necessarily work that way. And I have also learned to listen to my employees and to let them take the lead sometimes. You know, I say, we need to redo that display, or we need to put something new in the window, or we need a good promotion for next month. And some of the best ideas we've had have come from other people besides me. I've had to learn that I don't have to come up with all of the ideas, and if I give them a little freedom, that they will come up with some great ideas too. I've learned to, like I said, ask for advice, but also to trust my instincts. The hiring with what to sell at the store, if I don't think an event is going to work at all, I have learned to trust those instincts because I'm usually, by now, pretty good at predicting those things. Not always, of course, but I've learned that if the little voice in my head is saying something loudly, I should listen to it. I've learned that it's really important to give back to the community, and not just because that builds support for the store, but because it's the right thing to do. As a member of a community, I feel that it's important to contribute to the community. And literacy-related, book-related ways are my way of contributing right now. Giving books to kids or getting books into the hands of people who wouldn't necessarily have them is something I can do. And it's important to work together and cooperate with other businesses. It benefits everybody on the square if we all do a promotion together, and if we all get along, and if we work through the chamber and with the chamber and things like that. So getting along with each other is important. And I've also learned not to take things as personally as I used to take them. You can't please everybody all the time. And a lot of people are going to buy their books on Amazon, and they're going to come in and tell me, oh, I just bought that on Amazon last week. And I just have to bite my tongue and realize that they're not doing it to be vindictive. They're doing what's convenient for them. They may or may not know the benefit of shopping local and how important it is to keep their community strong by shopping locally. So we just try to educate rather than take it personally. And I would say it's important to join a trade group if you do have a business too. I don't know, if you have a trade group you can join it. You get a lot of support that way. Let's see. And the last thing is just enjoy your business as much as you can. Enjoy the perks of owning your own business, and remember why you got into it and what you love about it. And there are a lot of perks. There's a lot of work too, but there are a lot of good things about it. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Carla, as a thank you, we'd like to present you with one of our Focus Suite mugs. Nothing better than a cup of coffee with a good book. And I would urge you all, check out the book she brought. Don't be afraid to buy one if you want. Support your local bookstores. You know, they always say if you don't support what's local, you won't have it. And so